Sometimes a second iteration is really what's needed. We all know, well, many of us know, just how amazing Arnold was in Terminator 2. But how many people actually watched the first one, for example? So, iteration can sometimes be important. But today, we're talking about an iteration of this guy, the Miyoo Flip. Now, when we first got this and did our first 24 hours, we went through and kind of had a little hesitation on it. The clickiness of the hinge was a little concerned, but we liked a lot about it, but the sticks were a little stiff. And so Miyoo has listened, and there is a slew, four big ones, of changes that are in this V2 that we're going to take a look at today. So, has Miyoo corrected and really given the product they should have given from the first time? Or are we looking at more empty promises? Let's take a look. Do you live with an a-hole? And I'm not talking about another human. I'm talking about a cat. Do you have one of those that just wakes you up in the middle of the night, knocks stuff off whenever they want to? You need the services of Jackson. No, wait. I am not Galaxy Jackson. He's amazing. I could never fix cats. Hey, Deadheads. Welcome back to the channel. Or welcome to the channel for the first time, new Deadheads. Today, we're taking a look at the Miyoo Flip V2. Okay, let's start. So a couple of things here before we get into the meat of this review. The box is the same. It's same all the way down to the same misspelled vibration. So, I'm glad it's got a vibration motor. And maybe they had so many of these printed that they just had to reuse them. It's a nice box, but other than that, it's the same box. It also has the same case on the inside. So there's very little that has been different here. It is still a very nice case that it comes with. I still like that it has a case and a box. So very favorable with that. If you didn't see our previous videos or seen any videos, or if you just now picked it up, this is a nice case to have. Inside the case, you have the usual suspects here. The same thing, we have this USB adapter so you can use your SD card. It's got an SD card, got your manual, you got your unit, and then you got your USB-C cable. You do have a screen protector, which is not the greatest screen protector, and that is about all that's in there. So same for the par from V1. I have had two different Miyoo V1s, and so this is my third flip, this one being the V2. But yeah, pretty much same there. Now let's start talking about what's different. You can go watch the first video, the first 24 hours, or our review of it that we followed up with. But functionally, let's talk about these units. Now, without telling you, there's no way for you to really know which one's V2 and which one's V1. And I looked really hard to try to find any differences between these two. Now, we know that the hinge was improved. So let me start there. I did notice that on the hinge for the V2, there is less space than on the V1. And as I show some footage here, you can see I used a little tool to do it. I didn't measure it, but the V1 is my black one, and the V2 is the SNES one. And so there is just a tiny bit more space on the V1. That's probably because there's more hinge on the V2, but it also makes me pause and wonder if that's ultimately a good thing, because now it has less space to move and flex. Now, although there were reports of people having hinge issues, I had two of these and had no problem with either one of them. So I'm not sure that the original hinge was really that big a problem. I'm saying this because now, looking through Reddit and looking through some of these others, there are a lot of reports of hinge issues. Now, someone very smart has pointed out that they tend to be this color. I haven't had any issues so far with this. People have pulled this out of the box with a floppy hinge, and I'll show the video here, but my hinge is fine. Now, One of the things we mentioned in the original one was the noise, of the hinge and what it sounded like. In this one is firmer. You can feel a difference. So there's definitely a difference in the hinge here. There's no question about it. They did change it. It is firmer, which makes it seem like it may last in time longer than this one, while this one may have been a little more questionable as far as the length of time the actual hinge would survive. I feel a little more confident in V2 that the hinge is going to be something that is going to be a lot firmer. In other words, if it's going to break, it's probably going to break right away, or it's probably going to last a while. So one of the things why people love these clamshells is for that satisfying click. And while this is firmer and a little bit less noisy, it is still a noisy hinge. Comparing it to the Gameboy, so I'll show you here side by side the Gameboy Advance SP that it's mimicking, and I do have one. It's hard to tell the difference between the two. Look at the size between the two of those. They're nearly identical in size, and I think this is where, for me, the Miyoo Flip exceeds over Anbernic's offering. I liked Anbernic's. I still like Anbernic's RG35XXSP, but I found this to be just so much more comfortable. Now, with more hinge, this feels just a tiny bit heavier than this one. Not enough to notice, but it does seem a little bit heavier. And I know a lot of people make comments on the toy-like aspect of this, but I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. Now, the materials is another thing that they've mentioned that they've improved here. Now, I've only had access to the yellow, the black, and the gray. So I haven't tried the white one, but I can tell you that the materials don't feel different to me. However, go check out Russ's video where he has access to all of them pretty much and compares that the material in V1 was quite different in models. So it looks like they have actually improved their materials here, or at least used the ones that people preferred. This black is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. So this is V1. So the V2 apparently is going to have a little bit improved ability to stop that. So this hinge has been improved. The materials have been improved. And then the other thing that has really changed here is they now have a better full support for Bluetooth. When you're looking through the menus, there has been an update for the software. And we'll talk in a second about how I like that, but I'm also disappointed. But in the software aspect of it, it does have support for Bluetooth, meaning you can take a little controller like this guy, this little cracked controller, which is one of my favorites. Although there's also another brand, an IINE, that makes a bunch of cool ones of these I'll link to as well, and have this thing play remotely. I mean, the controller be remotely. And so that is another thing. It seems to be functioning. I haven't tested this thing for like earphones and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Somebody will probably discover some kind of thing with it that's not perfect. So by no means saying it's perfect, but it now has Bluetooth where it didn't before. But this software is an update. And Miyoo, what is going on here? It was pretty universally clear that all of us, I guess I shouldn't say all of us, many of us were really jaded by the Gimped emulation station. Pro points for putting emulation station in there, but boo for locking it down. You had an opportunity here to open this thing up, and guess what? We have the same emulation station. We don't have new themes. We don't have anything. So again, this software update iteration, it's pretty much just adding Bluetooth. And it probably is something that just should have been done from the very beginning. Again, I'm not going to give Miyoo a pass here. This is a device that I pick up and play, that I like, that I enjoy, but I know is flawed in many ways. So before I get heat and grief for not pointing out all the negative things and being a shill, I'm not a shill. I purchased this myself. It was not sent to me, and I like it. But yes, there are a lot of things that should have been done right. And if you've been sitting on the fence and you've been waiting for this thing to be at the level of the Miyoo Plus Mini or Plus, it ain't there yet. V2 is a lot better, in a lot of ways. I think the hinge is better. Um, I think that the screen is brighter. That's the other thing let's touch on. So as we show some gameplay here, you can see that the screen itself is really brighter. And I'll show side by side an example here with the V1. And this is something that is going to play favor when outside, outdoors, or trying to do something with it to expand its reach or whatever. So it does have a nice brightness to it. That being said, the other and final big change here comes in the sticks themselves. Now, let's be realistic here. Turn this around, Dead Fred. Let's be realistic here. These sticks, while I am glad they exist and I'm glad the sticks are on there, are in a somewhat uncomfortable place. I almost wish the sticks would either have been both up top or maybe one stick, or maybe they've been diagonal. I do use the stick quite a bit. Actually, I'm glad it's on there, but it does become a little uncomfortable after a while. Now, on the V1, the sticks were stiff. And I remember mentioning this, moving the sticks on the V1 were a bit just kind of rough and stiff. It didn't feel great. And these have loosened up quite a bit. So it's almost like they over tightened them on the V1. I don't know. I'm not sure what they did, but these do feel nicer. So the sticks are improved. Your D-pad, your buttons, everything else around it is the same as we had in the V1, which there's no major issues with it. But if you found and you tried V1 and thought the sticks were a little too stiff, happy to report that the sticks are improved on this. Now, the other thing that I've been using this for is hooking this up through HDMI. And I'm going to show you some footage here. There's a device, I'll leave a link in the description, of this really cool Apple CarPlay, Google Android Auto device that allows you to actually use HDMI with your car stereo. And so as you look at the footage here, I've been able to use this guy and play on the bigger screen. Now, I have a weird wide aspect screen. Your car may have a more traditional 4:3 screen or 16:9, but I have a pretty wide, super wide screen here. So some of this may look weird, but it's cool, man. The HDMI just works. I don't know if that's also in the software, to be honest with you. I didn't really try on V1, but on the V2, I decided to make a conscious effort to actually use it. And so again, using this with the HDMI, with a Bluetooth controller, it's a nice combination. That's a nice plus here. The Arcade 3566 is good enough to do some Dreamcast, and so we were able to play that and get that going with it. So let's wrap this up and let's review everything that we learned here. This is a second revision of the Miyoo Flip, merely 2 months, 3 months after the first one came out. It has Bluetooth that's working correctly, updated firmware. It has materials more consistent with the preferred versions of the first one that people liked. It has improved buttons that are softer and analog sticks that are not as stiff. And then it has a screen that's just a little bit brighter, but it's beautiful. And then the big thing is it has a all metal hinge now. So that is what has been improved here. And as far as my limited testing, because I've only had this for about a few days, it seems to be everything they're promising. Miyoo, I encourage you to continue forward. Don't stop. Let's get a V3 like you did on the Mini, or a V4. Everybody loves the V3 and the V4 on those minis. They just kept getting better. Let's do it here and get better here. This thing still is not charging under fast charging. Can we please get real fast charging? I don't understand. Maybe it's the 3566, but it still doesn't have fast charging. I want full emulation station or more custom firmware, but also I need you guys to work with the custom firmware developers. I think that it's a shame that we pretty much only have MinUI, which is great, don't get me wrong, but MinUI and Gamma, that are the only two choices we have. By the way, Gamma on this is really good, but since it only has 1 gig, it just has the 1 gig of RAM, it feels a little sluggish compared to others like Magic X with its Zero Mini 28 that has the 2 gigs. So, but still, Gamma and his magic have worked it on this, and I highly encourage you to try out Gamma on this because it's pretty enjoyable, even though it's not a touch screen. But Miyoo, keep pushing the software, make it more improved. Let's get better. We should have full access to Emulation Station. We need more themes. Spruce, where are you? I don't know. Onion, I don't know. But yeah, I gotta say that I feel fortunate that the two V1s I had are still working. I had no issues with them, no problem. They're great devices with a lot of things that I pointed out that needed to be better. V2 is actually an improvement in a lot of ways. It is not a revolution, but an evolution that takes some of the issues that people complained about and make it a step better, but they need to keep going forward with it. The price of this thing is still a little bit out of range. We need to get this thing back into the $55 to $65 range for this to really be where it should be. That being said, if you want to have great support, I'm going to leave a link to our friends at Mech DIY who have a version coming out with some customized software and things like that. There's also some accessories coming for this, some grips and stuff that are making this thing more improved. So I like this. I still have a lot of thoughts about improving it. I hope Miyoo follows through. Now, for those of you that are getting these and the hinge is acting weird at first, return it immediately. Don't wait, return it immediately. Because I feel like this is one of those things where it's either going to mess up right away or it's going to stay pretty good for a while. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this updated look at the Miyoo Flip V2 and the improvements that it's had. Hit the links for all the discounts down there. Remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones because tomorrow is never promised. We'll see you next time. Deadheads, Dead Fred out.